What's up, everybody? A Spare with a Gun here from Sleepless with another episode on Empyrion, Galactic Survival, and today we actually have some interesting stuff to go over. There's a couple of things that has transpired through the comments and stuff on the last episode. A couple of things. Runa Grace mentioned the reason that I lost a couple of those growing plots, or rather had to rebuild them, is because if you don't place a core on something that you've taken the core out of, and you don't claim ownership of it, then when you dismantle it, there's always a chance that you get the parts and not the actual block, which I kind of assumed, but I didn't really know for sure. So that was good. The other thing, though, Wilhelmus 1959, I believe it was, did kind of clarify for me what I was asking at the end of the last episode, that it doesn't seem like without a mod there's any way to generate the oxygen or like the water stuff or whatever on a capital vessel. So you could do everything except, I guess, power from hydrogen, because I guess if you were out and about in space and there was like an asteroid, you could find more promethium, I suppose. But there's basically, if you're trying to do self-contained, then you would need some kind of base where your oxygen generator and your hydrogen generator, or one of the hydrogen generators, is set up to where you could get power cells and oxygen and stuff that then you could dump back into your ship. So you do need to go back and forth from a base camp type thing, which is a little unfortunate, and I may end up looking into mods. Let me know what you guys think about that. I don't even know if there is a mod for that or not, but if there's basically like a solar panel or a solar farm like in Space Engineers where you can get power and air from space, then essentially a capital vessel would become completely self-sufficient, because you could grow food and everything on it, as long as your power draw wasn't more than your generation. So I don't even know if there is a mod like that. I haven't really looked into mods for Empyrion. But let me know if there is, and if you guys would be okay with that, or if that seems a little bit cheaty, because I do get that, you know, there is a way to do it. You basically just let the hydrogen generator run, and it gets oxygen and hydrogen, which creates power cells and oxygen. Now, the only thing, I said this in the last episode, the only thing I do kind of have a problem with is that the hydrogen generator can't run on hydrogen power packs. That kind of bothers me a little bit, because it basically forces you to go find promethium power packs and other thing like that, or promethium in general, which I know there's stuff, but it takes time away, and you gotta go mine stuff and things, where if it could just run itself, because you can take hydrogen and make power packs and then go put some power packs back in it, I think that would just make sense. I don't feel like that's really cheaty or anything like that. So I do kind of fault the system for that, but, you know, that's again a personal preference thing. Now, the biggest factor, however, for what is transpiring today is an entirely new part of the game that has blown my noggin, blown my mind entirely. Just, I did not even know it was a thing. And that is the Blueprint Factory. This was directed to me, or I was directed to it by Wilhelmus 1959, who brought up the Blueprint Factory. That typically what will happen for them is that they'll make a blueprint and then save it as a blueprint, and then when you're in your survival world, just put it in the factory and build it, and you don't have to. And I was like, wait. What factory are we talking about here? Is this a block? Is this something I have to unlock? So I did some Googling, and I found it. So when you go into your blueprints here, it lists all the different blueprints that you can have, and I've downloaded a few, honestly, because they just looked cool. I probably will end up starting some kind of Empyrion inspiration series at some point. I mean, there's this cool temple-looking thing. Somebody did a Millennium Falcon, which all of these, as far as I know, don't have mods. I could be wrong, but I don't recall that saying anything about mods. I think Empyrion just has some more detailed blocks. This little hover tank thing was cool. There's another hover boat-looking thing. This looked like a really awesome base. So there was just some cool design stuff. So I just downloaded a few of them. But there's also the prefab stuff like that the developers have done, and it just comes with the game. If you don't want to, you know, mess around with making your own. Ooh, that was a cool looking one. You know, if you don't want to mess around with making your own, you can kind of just do it that way, which is cool. But I thought it was one of those, like with Space Engineers, you pasted them in, you had to build them, blah, blah, blah. Nay, nay, not so. So let's just grab, I'm not going to actually do one, but let's grab something doable. Okay, like this cool little X-Wing wannabe. So you can hit 2 factory. It not only tells you what you need, which is the amount of ingots you need, but then you can put the components / blocks can be added into the blueprint factory for reduced production time. Now, I don't know exactly how this works. I will admit this. I don't know if I had all the stuff, if I just click start, or if you can actually like drop the blocks in there, if it means like this kind of stuff. Oh, crap. I didn't really mean to do that. Can I undo that? I don't think I can undo that. That doesn't seem like a thing. I might have to reload, because I don't want to lose that many iron plates. But you can see where I'm going, is you can drop the plates in there and it kind of cuts off how many more iron you need. And I'm assuming when all of these are met, then you can hit start production and it just builds it. And I don't know how that part works. As far as once it's built, I'm not sure if you have to go in, like if you get a block and you can just walk out and paste it, or I'm not really sure how that actually works. But the one thing that is interesting about that is I will probably do some stuff today, but I think maybe if not the back half of this episode, if not the next episode, I might switch over to creative and start designing a capital vessel, and then we can just make a blueprint out of it and we'll figure out what all we need to actually make it. For starters, I don't plan on making an actually big capital vessel like with this kind of room, like a lot of space. I'm actually thinking a bit more condensed and probably not super stylized, just to get it up and running, just to where we have a capital vessel, and then we could kind of like supply and make a nicer one later kind of thing, is kind of the idea I'm going for. But before I do anything else, I was going to do a couple other things, but apparently I just used up a lot of steel. So let me fix that, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, that's much better. So yeah, I recovered my my steel here, so that was cool. But I also realized I went through and cleared out this entire mine and everything, totally forgot about leveling up an XP. So I had like 200, 300 points or something, and I'd leveled up to a 14, so I unlocked everything up to 12. So I basically went through and cleared a bunch of stuff. We got a med station now instead of just a clone chamber. We've got a warp drive, warp drive tank, which I think is a new block. I'm not sure. For capital vessels, we got a tier 1 large generator, some turret weapons, thrusters, tier 2 RCS, elevators, tier 2 fridge, and the advanced constructor. We can actually get this now. So I'd like to work on getting that up and running. I also, at the recommendation of Wilhelmus, did a tier 2 multi-tool. I want to make one of those because I don't think I've actually made a tier 2, and I'm not really sure what their difference is. And I'm hoping that the hydrogen packs are now in the advanced constructor, because I believe they used to be in the tech tree here, and I don't see them anymore. It makes me a little nervous because I really am not fond of the Prometheum packs. I also did a couple of things with the small vessels, got some more thrusters, unlocked the doors and ramps and stuff like that. I can't get to the homing rockets yet. Let's see, was there anything different for bases? Tier 2 fridge, we unlocked that. I also got an ATM. I don't really know what those are for, but I figured I'd get one. Alright, so the primary thing, we have 1 flux coil, but I'm pretty sure we're going to need 2 for the advanced constructor. Oh, it's a power coil. I think I made that mistake last time too. It's not a flux coil, it's a power coil. And I think this is one of those redundant things. Oh, there it is, power coil. I was going to say I thought it was one of those where you needed a power coil, like an upgraded advanced constructor to make one. The truth is you actually just need those ingots, which I don't think are very easy to come by when you're starting off like this. Aerostrum, yeah, so we only have a few, like a couple of the ore pieces. So, what I'm gonna do is go, let's try and make, what do I need for a tier 2 multi-tool? Where did they go? Oh, I probably need an advanced constructor for that, now that I'm looking at it and it's not here. Great. So, what I'm gonna do is make like 5 of these, which we get 3 per one, which would be great. And you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if you can deconstruct these or not. I kind of wish you could. I don't know if you can or not. I don't ever see a deconstruct in this option panel. Wait, how's that making metal pieces? I didn't think I have any iron. Metal pieces. Components. Metal pieces. Iron ingots. Where are you getting iron from? I thought I was out of iron. I mean, I'm not complaining, but, oh, I guess I have some ore. Oh, you know what? It's probably resources connected to the mine, I guess. I don't really know. Alright, so we got some multi-charges. So, what a lot of you are probably already guessing, and you would more than likely be correct, depending on what you're guessing, is we are going to make a trip over to the logistics area, and we're going to see if it doesn't have some extra supplies for us that we can't gather. Particularly power coils is what I'm looking for. Now, I think, if memory serves, a tier 2 generator, I think, has them as well. Let me double check that in the blueprints real quick before we get going. Devices. Small generator. Where's the large one? I know I unlocked it. Oh, is that another one of those where we need an advanced constructor as well? Crap. I think it is, because I don't see it anywhere. Small generator. It's set to everything. So it should be right there, and it's not. There's a generator. Small generator fuel tank. Alright, so that probably is accurate, I'm assuming. But what I'm going to do is offload a bunch of my stuff, and then we're going to go looting. Okay, so we have arrived. Now, I didn't actually put... do I want deconstruct or disassemble? Let's just leave it on deconstruct, because I was going to say, having just talked about what you needed to do, what we needed to do, the breakdown type of thing, to where it keeps everything intact. I actually didn't really want to keep everything intact. I like some of the raw materials, I think. Actually, it was even recommended to me, I think it was last episode or the episode before, to do that kind of thing on stuff like this that we didn't actually need, like extra cargo containers and stuff at the mine. But since we ran across the logistics area, I figured, well, why the heck not start there? So we're going to work our way from the top down. I'm guessing would be a good idea. Oh, that looked kind of cool. I thought it was like a hex window thing or something. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But see, that way we can get just basic raw materials of like metal and things without actually having to worry about, well, I don't really need that block kind of thing. Now, I don't know what happens. Since we're destroying this, let's find out what happens. If you break the bottom first. Ow. I thought I could make that jump. Apparently not. So apparently that happens. So it is a good idea to work from the top down. Confirmed. If you didn't know that already, I mean, it is kind of makes sense, right? Meh. I don't know if I can actually get to the top of this one. Can I get it as it's falling? I feel like this game does it to where once it falls, it's like it's just junk at that point, I think. I feel like I remember running across that before. I will admit that I feel a little bit invincible with this many multi-charge available to me. Because normally I don't have that many and I'm always like trying to make it work and stuff. Let's actually turn this on, see if we're losing anything. That irony when the windows actually hold up more than the wall tiles. But yeah, so I'm kind of thinking this is going to give us a lot of materials, if nothing else. We've got glass, we've got steel. And so that should cut down on the amount of iron that we actually need to farm. Because, well, it's basically just going to end up wanting to make it into steel plates anyway, for the most part, as far as I know anyway. Like 90% of what you use iron for is the steel plates. At least that's the impression that I got. We don't really need this door here either. So that's 10 steel plate, and it also helps me too, because then I don't have to farm for glass or anything. I don't actually know in this game what you need for glass, now that I think about it. But yeah, so my thought process here... Oh, now that's interesting. I just noticed how they did this. Huh. They actually had sometimes a panel on the outside to keep the window even. But that way you can put the panel on the inside to give it a... You'd have like a panel out here and then an L panel or something. That's an interesting way to do it. That's kind of cool. I mean, you never learn more about something until you take it apart, I guess. But yeah, what I'm actually thinking about doing... Oh, that bird flew over. I thought it was part of this falling over. That's funny. But yeah, I'm highly considering doing like a, not really a creative series or anything, but just as like a planning type of thing. Doing at least an episode or two in like a creative setting, where we could basically go through and plan out a ship rather than trying... I was kind of doing it before, but I was actually making all of the blocks and stuff. I didn't know you could do it that way, though, because, see, that's the thing. I mean, I guess technically Space Engineers does have that ability. You can do it that way, in that you could do a blueprint in creative, and then go into survival, but then the part that is a little clunky with Space Engineers version is after you've made the blueprint, in survival you would have to have the parts and stuff needed to make a welder and a projector and stuff like that, or in the extreme case like a nano machine factory type of thing, which is a mod. And I like that this one is more gamey, for lack of a better term. In that it's like, it's not really as realistic as, okay, I have a blueprint, now I need to build the machines to make it. It's a bit more ease of use type of thing. Where it's basically like, okay, you have the design, just give me the parts and then I'll make it for you, kind of thing. And like I said, there's an aspect of it that's a little less realistic than the Space Engineers take, but it makes it a bit more doable. It's not quite the huge undertaking of trying to, okay, now I have to make sure I have a projector, and I have to have a welder, and I have to, you know, all this type of stuff. Whereas this one's kind of like, just give me the stuff, and I'll take care of it, kind of thing. And so for me, I really like that. I really like that a lot. And that's, I think, one of the I'm gonna go into a little bit of a theorem rant here. Hopefully not for a crazy long time, but we are just breaking things down. I didn't mean to reload, that wasted a charge. Crud muffin. Oh well. Okay, there's another layer. If I can land. Whew, that was close. So what I started to say was that I think that's something that the gaming industry in general could probably do a little bit better with. The balance between immersion, realism, and functionality. That there is an aspect of, okay, that's very game-like, that's not realistic. You know, fast traveling, for example. It's kind of a function that a lot of games have, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in the realm of plausibility. You know, it's like, yes, it does speed up the game time however long it would take you to do it on foot, but at the same time, you're also, like, across the entire map in, like, 5 seconds. You know? So they've tried to balance that kind of stuff, and that's not really a great example. Actually, a good example would be the change here between Empyrion and Space Engineers' take on blueprints, in that one has in-game ways that you can make blueprints, but there are blocks, supplies, materials, and other things that you actually need to already have in order to make use of it. Whereas this is more, get me the materials that it costs, and then just paste it in and it's done. From what I understand, I know that there's a timetable involved. For those of you that didn't actually see that part, it actually has a production time down here. So if I provided all this material, it would still take an hour and a half, and it gives you a remaining time and all that kind of stuff. So it's not instantaneous, and I think that's where the quote-unquote balance comes into play. Is it's not actually just a paste it in because I have all the parts. It's saying that basically a factory is off making this somewhere kind of thing. Which isn't really a bad take on it, but like I said, I think the biggest difference is just the simple fact that you don't need other blocks. It's not like, well, this is what I need for my ship, but now I also need this for the projector and the welder, and I need to hook it up, and it needs to, the welder can only cover so far, so I need to have multiple welder, you know, whatever it requires. Again, realistic, yes. You would need a way to actually manufacture the thing. But fun and time-consuming, you know, they don't usually go together. So I really like that it gives you a much easier way of doing it. Plus, this is a bit more of a slippery slope, but I think from having played both games simultaneously and watching their production pipeline and seeing what each game is adding and changing, I feel like Empyrion is looking far more at the vibe of the game and the functionality of what the player is going to associate with the game. Like, how much of a game is it type of thing. For example, we've got all of this stuff, these blueprint areas, these points of interest with mobs and planets and all that kind of stuff. Whereas Space Engineers, it has a bit more... Oh, crap. Ugh. Ooh, wow, that one hurt. I actually thought I was going to die from that one, I'll be totally honest. I feel like Space Engineers has a more... how do I put this? Probably a more robust engineering focus side of things. I was going to say building, but it really doesn't have a better building structure. But it has... where Empyrion has more blocks to work with, and overall a better detail-oriented system. Space Engineers has a bit more of an engineer side of things, which is, it's what the game's focused around, but I mean, it's got more of a, I mean, you grind stuff rather than a multi-tool, and you've got welders to build it rather than just stick the block down and things like that. It has a bit more of that kind of, that kind of stuff going on that makes it a bit more engineer-like, but less gamey. And it's got like the conveyor system, and it's got more, it seems more focused on realism and industrialization type of thing. Much like the solar panels versus like the hydrogen power plants and things like that. And so it has a little bit more of that kind of focus, whereas Empyrion I feel is more of a game. Like if somebody asked me, you play both of them, what's the difference? Building mechanics wise, there isn't a ton different about the mechanics other than controls and things. Like in Empyrion, you select what axis or axis, whatever, you're going to rotate it on, and then you use the same button to rotate it. In some ways, that's a lot better because it's a more clear, concise, and consistent way to rotate a block as opposed to the dynamic way that SE does things. But it basically comes down to this. If somebody asks me what they are, one's a game, one's a sandbox kind of thing to me at the moment. Now, grant you, I have never played Empyrion in creative mode, which may have a drastically different effect, and it might actually turn the tide to where I just prefer Empyrion at that point, because what Space Engineers has going... Well, and this too, Polish is another one that I think Space Engineers has better graphics. I mean, just overall. Not like that tree or this block texture, but just overall, like the character astronaut and animations and stuff are a bit better and stuff like that. So it's almost like, I've said it before, it's almost like two of the same game focused at two different ends of the pipeline. That's evident in the fact that Space Engineers had a lot more of the building block stuff set up long before they did planets. And Empyrion had planets and, you know, the survivor aspect of food and, you know, stuff like that way before Space Engineers did. And it even has it still to this day at a higher level. Like, there's actually food and hunting and animals and things like that, whereas Space Engineers has wolves, you know, and planets and stuff. So it really reminds me of, like, the same game tackled from two different angles type of thing. It's like I see aspects of Empyrion where Space Engineers probably wants to go eventually, and vice versa. But in some ways, I gotta say, the more I play it, there's actually a lot of aspects that Empyrion has the same things. It may not be to the same degree, and it might be done differently, but they have a lot of the same functionality, but the bigger difference is that they have more. I would like to see a polish layer go over it, though. I'd like to see some better graphics, character animations, stuff like that. I don't play in third person a lot just because the character animation and control and stuff is just a little wonky kind of thing. Holy crap, we almost got a whole building done. Jiminy Cricket, I wonder how many steel plates I have now. So, you know, that kind of stuff. But I'm using Empyrion's blueprint system as an example because there are a few examples, not just in Space Engineers and Empyrion, but in just general, in games in general. Wow! 2,000 plus. Right? Yeah. Whew! That's like 2,000 and... or 2,100? Give or take? 2,180? Something like that? That's crazy. That is just nutsy. Oh, okay. Those get destroyed really quickly. Glass railing is... Oh, now that's funny. A glass railing that is only one steel plate. And there's no glass involved. Curious. Interesting. But yeah, so, yeah, that's kind of a lot of my rant already. But basically, there's some aspects to gaming that I think, in general, the industry, and I mean AAA developers and stuff as well, not just indie, Steam early access people. Ooh, now that's cool. That's a steel block with a wood texture. We could do wood in our big ship. Oh, that's going to be a thing. That's going to be a thing. Now, that's another question. This is all steel. Oh, see this kind of stuff. Texturing, interior blocks, like a shower kind of thing. Kitchens, desks. Empyrion has it beat hands down. Even the mods for Space Engineers, I don't think have as many versatile detail stuff as Empyrion does. Part of the reason I've been tempted to start an inspiration series for Empyrion is just because Empyrion has a lot more detailed interiors with I wouldn't even have to touch mods, and the detail work would be a lot better just because the game gives you more detailed blocks to work with just right out of the box. But what I started to get at with the whole gaming industry thing is a lot of games I've seen, they try and be really immersive, which is good. There's a couple of games that I prize because of their immersion. Not so much lately. Lately, they've been doing some weird stuff, but when they first started, Assassin's Creed was one that really made you feel like everything happened within the game. The HUD was explained as being part of the Animus, and when you weren't in the Animus, you had no HUD and stuff. Like, it did do a good job with immersion like that. But lately, it's gotten so cumbersome with a lot of its extra systems that you kind of lose some of that feeling a little bit. But there's been a couple of games that tried to do kind of the... Like, they were so focused on immersion that the actual system ended up suffering. Just an example, it's a hypothetical example, I can't think of one offhand, but I've run into it recently a few times. It just didn't stick with me. And by recently, I mean the last couple of years, then games that have come out had some of these issues. But one example I could give would be like fast traveling, but instead of fast travel, like click on the map and you're there, which I discussed earlier as it's great, but it's not really ultra realistic. You'll have some where there's no fast travel. You just have to go everywhere and it takes you forever to get places and things. And it's like, for the immersion side, yes, it would make you feel like you're really there. Play-wise, nobody's going to want to do that. And that's, I think, something that developers have kind of had a struggle with lately. And lately, last few years kind of thing. I've seen a few games that they had good ideas, but they weren't executed well, or they weren't really well thought out to be like, nobody's gonna want to put up with that, kind of thing. And it was so focused on doing it the way that it thought of, would be a good idea. So anyways, I just realized I'm kind of basically out of time. So we've collected some materials, as in a lot of materials. Not so much cables and things, but glass and steel, we've got a ton of at this point. So I think, let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll basically end up going with the majority of people's reactions or whatever. But I'm almost thinking the next episode may be entirely creative, and we're gonna suspend. It'll still be like episode, whatever the next episode's gonna be. It won't be like a whole new series or anything, but we might not make any progress on our survival world for an episode or two, maybe more. It just depends. I don't want it to turn into Space Engineers, where I went for like almost the back half of a whole season of my Let's Play series and it turned into a creative thing. I only want to spend a few episodes on it, and like I said, just for now, I'd like to do a rough ship kind of thing. I don't really kind of like this. It has form, but it's mostly for function. It's not really crazy. Actually, in hindsight, I could have done this one a lot faster had I done what I'm planning on doing, which is design it first and do a blueprint factory. I didn't even know that was a thing. So let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. In the meantime, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you all next time. Peace.